That was one of the highlights for me.
I loved it. It was like my kind of place. It's no pretension, and it had everything you needed in a bar. It had a bar, it had a pool table, and it had a stage, and cool people, you know, cool peeps.
You know, it was your classic New York dive bar. It was a dive bar, which I say as a compliment. It was unpretentious, great classic rock club, because a lot of classic rock clubs have low ceilings. I think the first time I went there, Bob was cooking hamburgers on the sidewalk. He had like a grill.
It was the most joyous bar where nobody had an attitude, where anybody mingled with anybody else. My favorite thing about Louderback's was outside in the front. You stepped down into a pit area, which was the yard. And it was probably the best congregating space I've ever been in as an adult. It was just like being a teenager, you know, you're hanging out and talking shit. Nobody knows what anybody's talking about, but everybody's just talking. And it's like a bunch of pigeons on a wire.
It was just full of lively people, a lot of chatter, and a lot of great music.
Thank you. Stick around, there's more to come.
I've known about Louderbacks forever. They were legends in the neighborhood. At the age of 18, growing up surrounded by this post-war utopia of a neighborhood I still live in, I observed. My father wasn't around. He passed away when I was young. So I kind of had to look around and see what's out there in the world, you know? There must have been 40 bars in the neighborhood. If you stood here and went 8 miles each way, there'd be 40 bars. I can name them all.
The dark eyes of the city, last shining out like precious jewels. Alone, afraid of being alive.
Go for a second. Whose paintings are these?
Those are all mine. I do these in my sleep. I like pie. I really do. I didn't go to art school, but, you know, I'm basically very acrylic. No, these belong to one of the many Bob Rassiopo, Bob of the Shirts, but he is a truly Renaissance man, and Bob makes his living selling his paintings. We went to high school together. Bob was a little younger than me. I'm on the train wherever I meet Bob. He's on the F train. He said, "You got any songs?" I said, "Yeah, I got a song." And I had that song, "Romance is Risky." And I had a little tape and I gave it to him. Drove him completely nuts because we recorded on both sides of the tape, and at the end there's this bleed through from the backside, and they couldn't figure out where this one bassy noise was coming from. After I heard it, they said, "What is this?" I said, "Oh, we recorded on both sides." Some critic thought it was the most brilliant thing ever. I like the sound of shattering glass, fresh blood on a blouse. I shot a 1-for-2, and I jumped in my car and I ran home, and I told Sam what I did, and he said,
Hard-edged, there was some caustic political statements in his work that you didn't really expect. They kind of took us by surprise when he would release No Black Bathing at Durban or What's the Matter, David?
Which was about David Berkowitz, the son of Sam.
"What's the matter, David? Don't you like the disco?
These are songs that challenged people, made people uncomfortable.
And the crowd was attentive. The band came on, people packed in the room. You'd have 6 bands on in a night. You'd spill out in the street. It was a dugout bar. Hey, it's just wonderful. And the music, that was what it was all about. The music. Yeah.
I got to create. And that is a marvelous gift. We were like a Queens band, you know, and the Brooklyn Beat thing was, you know, more bands that were local around Brooklyn.
Frank Kubo, our singer, answered an ad. Bob put an ad in looking for Brooklyn bands. We were like, well, we'll send him a demo. You know, we're not from Brooklyn, but we'll send it anyway. And he liked it. And we go to Lauterbach's. He starts telling us what he wants to do. And he's kind of perplexed, and he's saying that he really wishes we were from Brooklyn. He said, you have no connection in Brooklyn at all, do you? And I said, well, my mother was born and raised in Brooklyn. He goes, that's it. You're in. Oh my. That was my first impression when I walked into that club.
You know, I'm a big, I guess, like a performer when I'm on stage. But otherwise, I'm like a real introvert. So it was a good way to kind of get that out.
But I remember thinking, well, this is very, very homey. This looks like the kind of bar that if it was on my corner, that would be my local.
Yeah, it was a local bar.
Yeah.
Turned into a scene.
It seemed unlikely that this place would develop into what it was.
Well, you walked in, the pool table was there, bar was on the left. That was nice. Everybody gave you the once over. Cool, you're in. And then there was a back room. Now this back room was unique because it was part like sales place where they would sell stoves, refrigerators. Christmas time you could buy toys that fell off the truck.
It struck me as a place that you may see someplace, you know, off in the country where the owners, you know, got a new refrigerator, want to get rid of their old one. They're like, oh, bring it to the bar, we'll sell it here.
People would come in limos from Manhattan to this little dumpy bar, right? Can you take my coat? She would go, sure, throw it over her shoulder. Like it was just, we were not fancy.
Everybody was really supportive.
Yeah, there was no attitudes, no like, oh no, this band, you know, they shouldn't be in, you know. But,
I probably had the worst attitude.
Yeah, you probably still.
What else got sold behind that bar?
He would have like a stove for sale,
There'd be a sign on it. They would tell you, anything they had, there would sort of still be a sign on it. At Christmas, they'd have toys.
You literally have a thing called a painter's hat. They give them away free when you bought paint in the 50s. He made Lauterbach hats like that. He always had some kind of crap back there.
I do remember seeing some stuff around, like, what's that? Why do they have plumbers here?
A common little glass case like you'd see in a living room that had like things for sale, and it had all kinds of various things in it, but the one thing I remember, because I should have bought it, was it had like a Univox High Flyer guitar.
He was selling stuff behind the bar, like, old sneakers or whatever, George, who ran the place.
The hard-boiled eggs.
Crab nuts.
The lovebird. I guess it was canary, parakeet, whatever it was, there was lovebirds.
I've heard about years of, appliances for sale, toys around the holidays especially, but it sounds like in later years they've branched out into pets.
Okay, in Lauterbach's, there were the lovebirds. Tell me about the lovebirds.
I can't remember their names. They were always behind the bar.
So in answer to your question, yes, they did branch out into selling pets.
Alice was great. George's wife, Alice, was fabulous. She was really something very special lady.
Rough-looking people, soft as cream puffs on the inside. They were warm, giving people with great senses of humor.
There were clogs all lined up by all the bottles of liquor. And I asked Alice, I said, what are all the clogs? Is that like a collection? And she said, no, I'm a competition state champion clogger.
So gradually, even though it was always smelly, Mr. Lauterbach actually started improving the place.
He wanted to do something more with the bar, so he started providing food. And it was the worst food you could ever have. It was I don't know where he found it, but he found these pizzas that...
Where'd you find that food?
Yeah, where'd you find this food?
No trip to Lauterbach's was complete without getting a hamburger with the bad cheese, but the lovely, wonderful, always perfect French fries that Alice would make.
Pizza, French fries, chicken tenders, simple stuff like that. No veggies.
Stewart sandwiches, which were really disgusting. I could still smell when they put them in the microwave, the plastic and that cheap mayonnaise that was on the turkey sandwiches that everybody was eating. But the back room, the dance floor, it bobbed.
Lauterbach's, like when you play gigs and people just sort of sit there and listen. Lauterbach's, when Chemical Wedding played, everyone was dancing.
The band was moving. We were dancing, just jumping up and down. The floor would go with you. And I don't know how dangerous it was. Nobody thought of that back then. But it was the best feeling in the world because it was like being on almost like a stiff trampoline. It always sounded good.
There are pillars on the dance floor. I'd throw myself into the pillar, you know?
The good thing about CBGB's and Lauterbach's, there'd be people at the bar that didn't know the band, They'd be hanging out and they could hear it. If they liked it, they would go back. And sometimes when the crowd gets into it, it builds, it's really, that's the whole thing of rock and roll, man. It's like great.
The CBGB's, I'm going there because it's Patti Smith's show tonight. I'm going there tonight because Talking Heads is going to be there, or the Ramones is going to be there. But you're in a place just like this, and I can't wait to get the fuck out of here. That's CBGB's. Lauterbach's like, oh shit, it's 3 o'clock already? Has anybody got a car ride? And somebody did.
I mean, if we would have had sleeping bags, we would have slept in the bar because we didn't want the party. Literally, we just wanted to hang out. And George and Alice would be like, okay, literally, you gotta go home. You can't sleep here, you know, kind of thing. But just that sense of community.
Down by the tracks was the message I read. Oh, thank you, God, for this beautiful,
It was one big, happy musical family. Not only did we share equipment, which was great, but somebody couldn't make a gig, somebody else would just call up somebody and be like, I need a drummer, or I need a bass player. If somebody was playing on stage and a string broke, somebody would just hand them a guitar.
Bob also was so encouraging and such a nice guy. He would watch us the whole night, you know, every single band, you know, with a smile on his face, standing right over there, you know.
He was just like the perfect guy for music, you know, a guy that knew what bands needed.
And Bob would never say no, never. If he couldn't put you on the bill on this Friday night, then he put you on the next Friday night. That was why it kept going, you know, it kept going. Because of Bob, for him to be so encouraging to all of us. He was the godfather.
The thing about your role over at Lauterbach's in the Brooklyn Beat era, it didn't just stop with booking the bands or like tending the bar. There were these compilation albums released. I keep hearing about also these regular meetings that were held. Like it almost sounds like you guys were unionized sort of.
Right, it was,
and
yeah.
I don't know if anyone ever took minutes or anything like that. Clearly this was a pretty organized operation.
This first one was really good, and organizing people is the hardest thing in the world. To organize weirdo artists, 'cause I mean, all these people were misfits. The story of this photo was great. This guy was in the bathroom. Like someone walked into the bathroom at Lauterbach's, and this guy was there, nodded out. And one of the guys from FBT took that shot, and that was great.
So this guy on the very first compilation album, we're not exactly sure who he is.
Right.
It's just,
He was a regular.
if you passed out at the show, you might actually. It's the most authentic album.
Frank!
Bob, he's got this way of looking off in the distance and just saying this stuff. He says, I want to make a compilation album and want you guys on it. In short order, there were meetings and someone had worked out the costs of everything. So that for us to press 1,000 albums, LP, vinyl, 12-inch, we would get 10 bands that would each put in $300, a photograph, a piece of artwork, and a finished master tape of one song.
When Today, Brooklyn, Tomorrow, the World came up, we were at the table, and I want to say I said it, but Frank Rossetti said it, and I'm pretty sure, and it was done. That was the name of the album.
A lot of people within the scene had certain skills that they brought to these compilations. You know, it was a very DIY scene.
Well, everyone chipped in, you know, like Conrad Moore helped with the artwork, Joe Ford organized a lot of stuff. After the first one, like this one was deep, he did all the artwork, and yeah, everyone sort of chipped in, you know, Rossi Bright helped out a lot, Frank helped out a lot.
But we didn't have a record label, so we would play these gigs, collectively gather our money, and when we had $3 grand or whatever, we would go into Mickey's studio and record an album.
Mick ran a studio called Grandpa. He was a regular there, and he was a big fan of the scene, and he recorded a lot of the bands.
It started when I was a kid, upstate New York. I'd stay up late at night with 2 cassette decks, and then I'd have all my little instruments. I'd record on one cassette, and then when I played that back to the other cassette, which was recording, I'd play the next instrument. And I'd kind of go back and forth maybe 3 or 4 times, and then I bought a T-Act 4-track, and when I got the 4-track, my world just opened up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Charlie. Charlie Squirrel. He's known as a real beautiful pussycat.
Catfish, Doug Snodgrass. He was a magnificent bassist. He also produced a lot of the bands in the Brooklyn beat scene. He struck up such a good relationship with the recording engineer Mick Cantarella that a fair amount of the material on subsequent compilation albums was stuff that Catfish produced at Grandpa Studios with Mick. A number of years ago, he passed away, and he's missed. He's missed.
I love Catfish. Yes, he produced a lot of the bands that we recorded at Grandpa Studios, and we were a team.
We were lucky because we were the first band that Mick used his new mixing board on.
Oh, is that right? I remember that.
So we got extra hours on that mixing board for free because he was trying to learn how to use it.
Those are some good times. I enjoyed that mix studio.
I would do that forever.
Grandpa Studio.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Catfish was a great producer. Well, I remember he once put a microphone up in the bathroom and just had me turn my amp up to 10 and recorded the delay, from my amp in the basement going all the way up to the microphone. They liked experimenting with this.
If they really liked something, they took their shirts off and they started waving them around. They're like, yeah, you're doing it.
I had a washer and dryer in the live room. It was basic, and I had this technique that Catfish loved to use where I'd put a microphone in the dryer and keep the door open. What the dryer did was it had this kind of reverberance for the Malahide Blues Train. We often did that with my guitars, or just give it that weird little flavor.
We hit it off because we were such huge Popeye fans and like old ancient jazz, 20s, cups, pack stuff. Did a lot of them. Some of them were like kind of collaborations with other artists. That was one of them. That Popeye connection. More train wrecks.
Right.
More Popeye stuff. And that's what people kind of end up after our show.
To think about FBT. They were just dirty and great and grungy and loud. Awesome songs. Hollis sang great, sang his balls off.
You've got this hard-edged blues band, lots of distortion, and this guy just swing drummer, a jazz drummer, Jim Petropoulos.
It's the oddest combination of elements that fits so well.
We had fun line, and then we brought more Popeye stuff into it. And then we were doing that so much it got to the point I went out and bought one of these little trash cans, turned it into a giant spinach can, and every take I'd buy like 3 bags of spinach, pile it in there, and we do that song, we'd throw up spinach at the crowd.
So it's kind of like you had a performance art element into all these live shows too.
Only when it came to the Popeye angle.
to date, probably one of my favorite live bands, the Boss's Bottle. You get that train, the train would start rolling.